Big it up, big it up. Hear my voice. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Here we go.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Casual Wrestling Community Show. I am your host, the Notorious Nerdy D, and I am joined tonight by the co-host of this show, Level Up Lauren.
What's up, y'all?
Each and every week, we talk about the best and worst in pro wrestling. Whether you are listening on podcast networks or watching on YouTube, make sure to like and leave a comment on the video or audio episode, however you choose to consume it. Tonight, we've got another 7 questions for you. But first, I want to start with doing kind of a segment where I need a chance to go back and, I say a lot of shit every 7 days, and then everybody comes at it and talks about it, and I just move on to the next 7 things. I will take like the first 5 minutes to kind of just
recap
and kind of give my rebuttal to some of the things that I heard over the last 7 days. Because I think there's a lot of unfair fucking answers that come at me. And I can't possibly, we've gotten to the point now, we've grown to a point where some of these videos are getting more comments than I can respond to. And even some of them are getting comments that I don't even know what the context is to what they're speaking to now. Because they're just coming from, we're putting up 6 videos a day, 7 days a week. And sometimes it's hard for me to decipher what video what's going to. So I just want to touch on some of the main things. So one of the biggest things we talked about last week was I asked you, and this was a throwaway question, but I asked you, would you trade straight up Britt Baker for Sasha Banks? Mm-hmm. And the overall consensus from people who heard that statement was that there's no chance. Why would you, what would be the purpose for even attempting that trade? So I want to put out a question to those people again. If you're not going to trade straight up Britt Baker for Sasha Banks, then you've got to give me a numbered rating 1 through 10 in 3 categories for each person to show me where is the disparity in these two. Uh-huh. For each person, for Britt Baker, I want to know out of 10 what you say in mic skills, wrestling skills, and their wrestling look.
Yeah. And
if you can do that, and you can show me out of 10 where this because I can't do it. I'll on the next week, I'll give you my scores so we can see where we're at. But I don't see this big glaring difference between the two, but apparently the internet does. The internet believes there's a huge difference in the two. Secondly, I wanted to touch on last week. I said, here we go, Claudio, which everybody was really upset that we didn't say the name correctly, which they can go fuck themselves because it's a bad wrestling name. It's a bad wrestling name.
That's not his real name, is it?
I don't know. I don't care. It's you know what? I know him as Cesaro. I'm a WWE guy. I'll either refer to him as Cesaro or whatever I want to. But what I won't do is I won't have people try to tell me that I'm being offensive because I'm making a joke about his name. It's a bad wrestling name. Like, your name should not be difficult to pronounce. If you're going to be a pro wrestler, it just shouldn't be. That's why guys name themselves Sting.
That's why Shakira.
That's why they go with easy names. It makes sense. But what I want to touch on there is I made the comment that the Ring of Honor world title is not a world title and we need to back up off of that. And I still stand by that. And I came out and said, I think the Ring of Honor world title is equivalent to a mid-card title in WWE, a United States Championship or an Intercontinental Championship. I actually got pushed back for that. You have the one side, the IWC, who are like, "Oh, you're crazy. It's as good as the WWE title." Shut the fuck up. That was a dumb answer. The thing that I got that actually made me think was I had quite a few people tell me, "No, the Ring of Honor title, that Ring of Honor is just now AEW's NXT."
Oh, true.
And so the Ring of Honor title is equivalent to the NXT World title, and I'm 100% good with that. Mm-hmm. I actually like that comparison. I believe that's completely fair. But then you gotta be honest. So Claudio is equivalent to Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
That's the superstar status we're placing on him. That's what Tony Khan believes in. And Claudio he's AEW's Braun Breaker. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a little bit of an age difference there. So if that's y'all's big hero here for Claudio, I mean, the difference is y'all think I hate Claudio. I think they should have put the AEW world title on him. Like, put up or shut up. If you're all going to stand behind him and say he's He's as amazing as he is, and I believe he is good. I just believe he lacks the it factor. They should have put the world title on him, put the big boy belt on him.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you saw this. You don't tend to look at as many of the like national wrestling media company websites. By national media, I mean the big ones. There's the ones that have the big followings. But I'm smelling a little bit of them paying attention to us.
Okay.
It wasn't 2 or 3 weeks ago that I was on this big Dominic Mysterio train and throwing this out there, and I set the wrestling world on fire. They either loved what I said or they hated what I said, but I said it. Now, all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, I'm seeing on all of these big Facebook pages, all of these big websites, everybody kind of jumping on this same sentiment that I've been saying for the last 3 weeks. So I know they're smelling what I'm saying. It's starting to get around. We're getting big enough to where these people have TikToks, these people have YouTubes, and these videos are making rounds, and these videos that are getting 12 or 15,000 views, 40,000 views, you know that
somebody's seen it somewhere.
One of those people are seeing this video, and they're starting, and that's fun. Not even complaining, but I'm starting to see things I say pop up 2 or 3 weeks later somewhere.
Yeah.
Cool. You know, you might want to throw a little bit of fucking credit at me. I mean, I do come up with fucking 7 original thoughts to speak on for an hour every week. Y'all could throw a little bit of credit at me, but I don't, fuck it, whatever, right? And then last but not least, we have to properly talk about, you had a belt ceremony last week.
I did.
And I made a claim that you would not show up this Wednesday night with the belt. And I made true to my promise because I won 5-4.
Yeah.
And I am, once again, the paper premium live event champion. So it's back.
This is
the
true.
belt is back.
This one really hurt me here.
The belt is back home with daddy. And so
I'm not calling you daddy.
All right. So what questions do you have for me tonight?
All right is going to be a part of the show every week. Okay, so as we enter into the new era of WWE post SummerSlam, Monday Night Raw's ratings were drawing in the highest numbers we've seen at 2.23 million viewers and a 0.61 rating in the key demographics of 18 through 41. There's still a few skeptics, i.e. Vince Russo, who think that Triple H is only the puppet and Vince McMahon is still pulling all the strings wherever he's bunkered up, you know. Do you think that Vince McMahon still has say in what the WWE creativity is?
So I don't know what, I understand the 2.23 million, but I don't understand the 0.61 and key demographics, 18 to 41. I don't understand how they determine that's a key demographic. Because, I mean, I see people try to go, well, kids don't spend money. Yeah, but their parents do.
Yeah.
We spend money on our kids in wrestling stuff. And a lot of the kids around a lot of our friends' kids do the same thing and get money from their parents. So I don't understand how 18 to 41 is a key demographic. Maybe at one time, but I think that WWE has transcended past 18 to 41. Because
so the 18 to 41-year-olds have gotten older.
Exactly. And they're still watching. A lot of them are still watching. But the problem really becomes, how do we define what influence really is from Vince McMahon? Do I think that Triple H is running Monday Night Raw? Is he in control? 100%. I think that he's in control. Do I think that Vince McMahon has avenues to get whispers into the ears of Triple H? I mean, come on, it's his son-in-law.
Yeah.
There has to be a way for him to do it. But I do feel like firmly after the last week and a half of wrestling that it's Triple H's hands are on the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. It's not Vince McMahon. Vince may be able to whisper. I think there's a danger for WWE if they let Vince McMahon hide in the shadows while still maintaining creative control of the company. I think that the board of directors probably has a problem with that. If that was to get leaked out to the public, that's a big problem. That Vince is hiding in the shadows. It's leaked out to the public, and all of a sudden, that squashes all of the momentum that WWE has coming out of SummerSlam. Mm-hmm. Because it's, oh shit, they played us. It's more of the same thing. I don't know about you, but I think the overwhelming consensus right now at this point is that Triple H is kind of giving off the vibes, and WWE's giving off the vibe. They're positive right now. Everybody's kind of positive, and the morale is high within the WWE. And I think that casual fans and IWC fans right now, all eyes are on the WWE product. It's not, the gap is widening between the two companies. So I think when people try to tell me different, like Vince Russo, who I don't listen to, and I only saw this in an article, I don't know half of the shit Vince Russo says. I don't really even know who he is or why he's important. I've never been that hardcore of a fan to pay attention. But when he tries to tell me basically that Vince McMahon is locked up in a cave somewhere, basically, and Vince McMahon is doing a bunch of very non-Vince McMahon things, right? So all of a sudden he decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go into hiding, and then I'm going to just do a bunch of things that I wouldn't normally do that the crowd seems to like. And that's how I'll get everybody. It's a hard pill for me to swallow, to believe that somehow Vince McMahon is working us over this way. We all know from experience that Triple H, he ran the black and gold NXT, and the overwhelming consensus was people liked the black and gold NXT. You rarely talk to anybody who has a negative thing to say about that. And we see with our own two eyes, guys like Tommaso Ciampa being pushed, right? We said it. I said it at the beginning of Raw. That's a Triple H guy. Yeah. Y'all pay attention. That's a Triple H guy. Ciampa's a Triple H guy. And Ciampa was a guy that in the WWE Vince McMahon pool, he was a nobody. He was a lackey for The Miz. So we see these things, right? We see the women's division seemingly starting to get more time on SmackDown, starting to get more time on Raw. We see Bayley return, and not only does she return, but she returns with a strong black and gold NXT presence. So it's hard to believe at this point in time that these aren't Triple H decisions. Like, at any point in time, they could have brought up some of these NXT names, the Dakota Kais, the Io Skies, names that Vince McMahon may not have been high on, but Triple H has been watching these people and been fond of these people for a long time. There was a part of me that initially feared, like I think a lot of people, that Vince McMahon was a puppeteer, that he was pulling the strings, that this was all a facade. How long? What is the countdown until Vince McMahon comes out of hiding, he emerges from the shadows, and he repositions himself into the company when he feels like kind of everything is well? Yeah. But then I think Triple H saw an opportunity. Sometimes there's a vacuum, right? And there's a void. And I think Triple H said, I'm going to step into this, and I'm going to make myself so important in this role that he's basically shut the door on Vince McMahon, I think, in a week and a half. Now, a lot of things can change, but it feels like if he can keep this momentum moving forward, the job is his. People are happy. He's proven that Triple H has proven he's not just another cog in the machine. Guys like CM Punk are going to fucking have to eat their words, because guys like CM Punk, who wanted to label Triple H just another doofus, just another Vince McMahon, all of a sudden, it's not looking like that. All of a sudden, it's starting to feel like Triple H might have been the good guy the whole time. Guys, it truly feels like somebody's listening. And I know that's weird, but it feels like, I said a couple weeks ago, the crowd should determine the winners and losers of wrestling. And everybody's answer to me was, no, management does. And I get that. That's what's been happening in WWE. But this time, it feels a little different. It feels like Becky Lynch's face again, because that's what we wanted. Yeah. It feels like we got Io Sky and Dakota Kai along with Bayley, because that's what we wanted. It feels like Michael Cole was able to go into SummerSlam and call those matches the way Michael Cole wanted, because Michael Cole was fucking fantastic at SummerSlam. And it's because Vince McMahon wasn't in his ear the whole time screaming and telling him things to say. Say this. And he actually just got to have fun and enjoy the product, and it shined through. All of these things are noticeable changes. You're not convincing me Vince McMahon is working this thing. The whole feel is different, and I don't think you can do, like, I would like to see it as like a 180 if somebody still has their hands in the pot. It's just not natural. You can't tell me that a guy finally realizes he needs to do the things he hasn't been doing once he goes to the shadows. That's not really what happens. And it felt like on Monday Night Raw, we saw guys wrestling multiple matches, and I'm telling you, what I feel when I watch a Triple H production is there's a thread that runs throughout the show, and there's a big arc and there's a small arc. And that's how television is made to be produced. When Vince was running it kind of at the end of the ship here at the end of his run, it almost felt like you were just getting these little pieces of segments thrown together, and you knew you were going to get 2 minutes of Kevin Owens, and that's maybe the end of him tonight. But we've seen Seth Rollins multiple times. We saw Ciampa multiple times. We saw AJ Styles.
Yes.
Now, I have heard people say there was a lot of wrestling. Me and you, we're big proponents. We don't like real long wrestling matches.
No.
They didn't feel long.
No, there was constantly something going on. And so I was interested and it went by fast. I hate when wrestling matches are long just to be long. That bothers the fuck out of me.
And Triple H came out and said, I believe it was on Impulsive. Don't quote me. I haven't watched it, the whole thing yet. He came out and said, casual fans will get behind these matches if they're good matches.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, man, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, that had my attention the entire time.
Yeah.
Tommaso and AJ Styles had my attention the whole time. Yes, we commented numerous times. These matches are long. These feel almost like premium live event matches.
Oh, yeah.
But if they can keep up that energy long term, I really think that Triple H has something here. Just to close this out a little bit, if in any way, shape, or form, if Vince McMahon, if Vince Russo's right, if I'm just a fucking idiot and Vince Russo's right, and Vince McMahon is behind the scenes and he's pulling the fucking puppet strings, he's pulling the strings, he's got us all fucking believing this. This is the most impressive wrestling work and angle that has ever been done in pro wrestling. If he is working us, if he has us all believing that Triple H is the savior, and then he's behind the scenes calling the shots, it's the biggest work ever.
I agree.
If Vince McMahon is still in creative control of WWE, without a doubt, it is the most impressive thing to ever happen in pro wrestling history.
Yep.
What else you got for me?
Okay. So this past weekend at SummerSlam, it appears that Becky Lynch was hurt early in the match with Bianca Belair with a separated shoulder injury. What does this say about Becky Lynch's toughness, and what does this, how does it affect the women's division going forward?
All right, so Becky Lynch, if at this point in time, if you watch any pro wrestling, AEW, WWE, at this point in time, if you're not at least a fan, not even a fan, if you don't at least respect Becky Lynch at this point, I don't know what you're watching anymore. I don't know how you can even be a fan of pro wrestling. Now, can you be annoyed by her because of her character work? Sure. Get it. She's good at that. She's good at making you dislike her. She's good at making you like her. And all of that is okay. But can you look at her and go, her body of work is not to be respected? I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can talk about her craft and not mention her now in that upper tier of the greatest of all time in women's wrestling. I don't think you can do it. She's fucking phenomenal. Phenomenal, man. She's great on a microphone. I know there's people who are going to turn and go, yeah, you're overreacting. No, she's great on a microphone.
So we had watched, remember where did we go? Was it in San Antonio? And it was a match between Carmella and Bianca. And Becky was sitting right there.
She was on commentary.
Yeah.
Right?
And literally all of San Antonio was like,
paying attention to Becky Lynch.
Becky.
Even as a heel, the crowd loves her. And when she grabs the microphone, people listen. And she's good at being bad and good at being good. And so you have to respect that. Also, there's nobody in pro wrestling, in any company right now, that can wrestle circles around her. I'm not an X's and O's guy, not a flippy flip guy, not a super kick guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can tell who's a decent wrestler and who's a really bad wrestler, but I can't tell you who the best are. But I can tell you, watching Becky Lynch, she's as good as anybody. I don't know that there's anybody I put that's just on a whole nother level. I can't find many flaws in what she does. She does a really good job. The only flaw that I could find is maybe she's really good at being annoying. She's really good at annoying a crowd and getting people to dislike her. She's really good at being cocky and getting people to dislike her. She's able to use multiple characters to get audiences to react to her in a day and age when the fans they tend to reject character work.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week, but Becky Lynch is definitely playing characters. The over the top, the almost Lady Gaga-esque character she's playing, that's a character, and she's still able to get the crowd to react to that. Now, Seth Rollins was quoted. Go ahead. Did you have something?
No, I was just going to say definitely.
Seth Rollins was quoted as saying his wife was the greatest superstar of all time. He has to say that. That's his wife. I have no fucking obligation to Becky Lynch. I'm not going to go as far to do a Jade Cargill or a Thunder Rosa and say that, Stone Cold-esque. But I don't know of any women wrestler that are better than her of all time. Of all time. I will stand by that. Charlotte, I will argue with you. Charlotte is okay to go 1A, 1B, however you want to place them, but you can't find me someone with as good a body of work. And I know one thing about Becky, definitely one of the most improved, because she's kind of one of those started from the bottom people. Yeah. She grinded her way to the top. So yeah, Charlotte may be on the same level, but I'm not finding anybody that's just better. I can't find any women's wrestler. You go Lita, Trish Stratus, all of the greats. None of them can cast a shadow on Becky Lynch's career. They may be able to stand next to her, but they're not casting shadows.
So the question would be, who is on the same level as Becky Lynch?
Yeah, right? I guess you could ask the question, like, what of all time, what women wrestlers are on the same level as Becky Lynch? And I'm not saying that there's not any.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that they may stand on the same stair, but there's nobody standing over the top of her casting a shadow at this point. Now, having said that, we got to answer the second part of this question is, unfortunately, injuries are a part of pro wrestling. And there's never a time, I hate, because it sounds almost condescending if I go, what I want to say is, this is the best possible time that Becky Lynch could have got hurt. There's no good time for Becky Lynch to get hurt. There's no good time to take 3 to 6 months off and have to recover. But you know who is the type of person who uses that time effectively?
Becky Lynch.
It's Becky Lynch. There were pictures of her today in the gym, working out in a full-on arm cast. She's like, hey, man, you can keep me out of the ring. You can't keep me out of the gym.
True.
She's not going to let anything happen. You're talking about, you're taking someone with great character work like Becky Lynch and you're giving her 3 to 6 months to reinvent herself coming off of a face turn. Who knows what she comes back with?
True.
Who knows? That's 3 to 6. That's dangerous. And now you're talking 3 to 6 months. You're talking Royal Rumble time.
Ooh.
You're talking wrestling. Man, take the next 3 to 6 months. Take that time and rebuild yourself. There's never going to be a time where it's okay to say that not having Becky Lynch on the roster is a good thing for the WWE. I'm not going to argue that. The show is always going to be better when Becky Lynch is on the show.
Yeah.
But if there was a time that WWE was equipped to handle losing someone as big as Becky Lynch, because let's not kid ourselves, she carried the women's division through a lot of the last 6 months, since last SummerSlam. Now, you got to give a ton of credit to Bianca Belair, who I love, think is a great wrestler, but Becky put her on her shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
Becky brought her up, and this was the finish line for Bianca, and this was the passing of the torch, and Becky, essentially what she said was, it's your turn. Mm-hmm. It's now your turn to carry this thing.
Bianca
I'll be back.
Needed Becky to be Bianca.
And she told her, I'll be back. I'll see you later. Yeah, if there's ever a moment that it works, it's the time when Bayley comes back, right? Bayley comes back. They ran some video packages for Charlotte, so it looks like Charlotte's on the cusp of returning during SummerSlam. You got Ronda Rousey. You got Liv Morgan, who, even if I'm not over on Liv Morgan, the crowd feels like they're starting to get over on Liv Morgan, and they're using some clever work with the way they did the Ronda Rousey finish.
Yes, definitely.
Like, maybe Liv is going to accidentally win some of these matches, or just, her hard work will pay off. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's so many women that can fill that spot right now that there's nothing to worry about. We're going to get a breath of fresh air right now. We just got a Bianca Belair Io Sky match. That was great. Io Sky, whatever the fuck you call her. We're going to get Dakota Kai, more than likely fighting against Bianca Belair. We're going to get Bayley fighting against Bianca Belair. So that's all kind of fresh air that we haven't seen in the last year, that we were all ready to move on from
yes.
Becky Bianca.
You can only do it so much before you're kind of like, okay.
And so I think, look, you still have other girls like Raquel Rodriguez, who's on the come up. You have Shotzi, who's on the come up.
True.
The women's division in the hands of Triple H feels like it could be the most dangerous weapon of all professional wrestling. It really does feel like that, with Triple H having all of this talent and him knowing how to use it. That's a nuclear bomb in pro wrestling. He can develop this division. I know there's a lot of hate when we talk about the women's wrestling, but I think in the right hands, that is the most interesting division. And there was a time, even when CM Punk kind of mentioned this, CM Punk mentioned when he went away that he only really was paying attention to the women's wrestling. And I do understand that. I do understand because I do think that they offer just something a little different. Their characters are a little bigger.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in looking at what's going on right now, I think that Becky Lynch was supposed to be exactly where Alexa Bliss was on Monday Night Raw. I think that was the story. But I don't think it made any difference. I really don't. I think whether it's Alexa Bliss and Asuka or it's Bianca Belair next to Becky Lynch, that wasn't going to build up Becky to some new level. That was Becky showing kind of a level of respect to Bianca. I still believe, and I said this to you, there is an interesting angle and an interesting faction in waiting. If they decide to, let's say the rumors are true. Let's talk about Sasha and Naomi for a second. If Sasha and Naomi, everybody's saying it's when, not if. If they do come back, there's an interesting combination of Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, and Naomi being pitted against Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. That really feels like it could feel fresh. It's a storyline that someone like Sasha Banks could probably get behind because there's a lot of creativity that could come from that. And let's not forget, SummerSlam or Survivor Series is right around the corner. And a Team Bianca that featured Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Sasha Banks, and Naomi versus a team that featured Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and whoever else they decide to throw into epic, that would be extremely fresh feeling. It would make Survivor Series feel important again. Mm-hmm. We can't, I mean, like I said, we can't forget there's still a plethora of fucking talent in NXT.
Yeah. I don't even know everybody that's in there.
Those girls foaming at the mouth to come up and take spots away from these veterans. Natalya, who seemingly feels like she's worn her welcome out a little bit with the WWE Universe, and that's not by her fault. That's just because literally she was one of the only heels in the company who could make the crowd react to these kind of greener faces.
Yeah.
I think she needs a break. So there's so many of these girls trying to come up, and I know it feels like I beat a drum all the time, but I think that WWE has to create another women's title. Right now, there's just too many women that are on the level of needing some prestige. And I think there's no time like the present for them to introduce a belt into that division, a mid-card title. Yes. I just think so. To wrap it kind of up, Becky Lynch being injured fucking sucks. It sucks. Not having Becky on TV every week, it's not going to be a plus for WWE. But if there was any division and any person like Triple H and Stephanie McMahon that could handle this at this point in time, it's them. Earlier, I said it, and I think it's still true. Triple H is going to take the women's division to the apex of what it's ever been. We're finally going to see that division reach its highest levels.
Which is kind of ironic because I think the week before you had asked me if I thought that an all women's wrestling could happen. And I was like, no.
It's funny that it just takes slight changes to seeing different people that you don't normally see and seeing them not in a, like the Shotzi and Aaliyah match. That match didn't have to be on SmackDown, and it really didn't need to be as good as it was. It's not a 5-star match. It's not the greatest match ever, but it was exciting.
Speaking of Aaliyah, like before she had that match with Shotzi, right? With her interactions with girl with the thong. I can't think of her name right now because she gets on my nerves so much. Lacey Evans. I had low expectations for her.
For Aaliyah?
Yes.
Yeah, they were it was weird.
Because they made her just seem like she was dumb and not capable of things. And so I was pleasantly surprised with the match between her and Shotzi, and I actually really enjoyed it.
Aaliyah got the weird push when she was in a program with Natalya where she beat her in 3.17 seconds, and they made all the t-shirts and it looked like it was going to be a thing. And then but that all feels like Vince McMahon shit to me. Like, it entertained him one week, and then the next week he's like, I'm done with that idea.
Yeah, that's
and
weird.
He didn't ever let us see these things through, where I think Triple H is going to let us see more things through. What else you got?
Okay. So with SummerSlam receiving overwhelmingly good reviews, it seems that the premium live event over-delivered for what we thought was going to be an average card. Did you see any negatives in the event that might have been overlooked?
So I'll start off with saying, and a couple people called me out on this, and I'm perfectly fine with it. I was 100% wrong. I said SummerSlam was going to end up being the bastard cousin of WrestleMania and Money in the Bank. And I try to be truthful. When I'm doing the podcast, I try to be truthful and I try to say when I'm right and when I'm wrong. And most of what I say is just my feelings. And I really felt like SummerSlam was going to be a letdown. Now, this entire episode's podcast probably is going to feel like I'm creating a shrine of Triple H.
Yeah.
But I am. Like, I am excited. I am really excited for this Triple H era of wrestling. And I think we should celebrate it because in my heart of hearts, I really think Triple H stuck his hand in. I know people are like, oh, that card was set in stone. I really feel like he stuck his hand down into the crevices of SummerSlam and grabbed what little juice there was and he squeezed it and he goes, I'm going to make slight changes, but they're going to be enough to get people like you, Notorious. They're going to get you excited.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you I can make you excited. So a card that was pretty set in stone, I think he left enough of an imprint on it that it left the audience going, this is different. I think without a doubt, when we look back at SummerSlam, the main event is going to overshadow everything else that happened on that card. We talked about it that night.
Oh, yes.
I don't even remember everything from SummerSlam because the ending had so much adrenaline that it was hard to think about everything else that happened.
I mean, I was talking about it yesterday. It still made me mad. So
it makes you mad, but it also just was emotional.
But I still liked that it gave me some sort of reaction.
It was a roller coaster. They did it well. It felt different. It didn't feel like the same old. It made us forget some of the good things that happened at SummerSlam, but I think it also unfairly let us pretend that like SummerSlam went off without any problems. There was nothing wrong with SummerSlam.
Yeah.
From start to finish, SummerSlam was the greatest pay-per-view we've ever seen in our life or premium live event or whatever. I have to start off by saying, and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I have to say, Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin.
Oh, yeah.
A match that I said my expectations were too high. I think Pat McAfee did it. He set the expectations too high. It didn't deliver WrestleMania vibes.
No.
And I think that there's truth to what I said. McAfee wasn't perfect in the match. And I listened to his podcast where he's pretty open that he wasn't perfect. He even talks about he didn't even train correctly, that he forgot it was an outdoor stadium. He was a little gassed out. That's all shit I get it. He's not a fucking pro wrestler. This is not a knock on Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is fucking amazing in the ring for somebody who basically has 3 professional careers. He was a professional football player, he's a professional podcaster, and he's a professional wrestler. I'm not trying to shit on anything. I'm just calling what I call there were some flaws. That match felt like it left a little bit to be desired. It felt like the chemistry wasn't perfect, especially for two guys who've had a history together. The entrances were amazing. The bum-ass Corbin choir, fucking really cool. And it almost looked like Pat McAfee was going to break his neck at one point when he got up on those ropes.
Oh, yeah.
And he talked about how the ropes and the ring post are different in a pay-per-view, or I keep calling it pay-per-view, in a premium light event than they are in a regular wrestling ring.
Really?
So when he got up there and he looked down, he goes, oh, this ain't the same shit.
What? Like, how is it different? I don't know.
I don't know. I guess the way they connect, I guess I think on Raw, they're thicker. Like they have that video board that goes up them. And I think on SummerSlam being outdoors, they might have just been metal poles. I don't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was just something left to be desired in that match. Especially, I told y'all when we were watching this live, I really wish they would have flipped that in the Logan Paul match.
For sure, because it's kind of like when you go after the person who's just like amazing, it's just kind of like, meh.
Yeah, because I mean,
it was still great.
The consensus coming out of SummerSlam is Logan Paul was the real deal, and Paul is meant for the sport. Logan Paul's a real athlete. He's a real athlete. He's transcended.
I guess that just depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I guess so. I like.
People say that about you too.
Logan Paul. Yeah, maybe that's why I like him. Yeah, I just think that Pat McAfee could have benefited from being on earlier in the show and not in that spot. Yeah, but I'm being overly critical. I still thought
he did really good.
Still thought it was a really good match. I still thought he hit spots that he shouldn't be able to hit. He does things he shouldn't be able to do.
So he like legit almost fell.
Yeah, I think
Did he address that
I think he almost broke his neck. I don't know if he addressed that exactly, but he almost fell.
Okay.
That was not like a.
I thought like maybe it was like him just. I think he did say that the
ropes with the humidity were wet.
Oh.
So that it was hard to stand on them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
I think this is also probably an unpopular opinion, but I wasn't a huge fan of Edge returning. I think we spent all this time with all these little video packages that were like building up this supernatural return, and he returned as Edge. There was kind of a isn't he a vampire? Isn't he kind of supernatural? And he just kind of returned back to go after the Judgment Day and to ruin their thing. And more importantly, I think that what that did was it kind of like the Judgment Day hit rock bottom. And I know Triple H is going to try and pull them out of the gutter, and he tried to finish off Monday Night Raw by putting them in the main event and starting this Dominic turn, which I think I have a theory, and it's not an Austin theory, but I have a theory on what's happening. I think Dominic is going to develop some kind of crush on Rhea Ripley. I think Rhea Ripley is going to be the one that turns him.
Okay.
I think there could be a love interest angle going because the way she's kind of tweeting, like, you know, she tweeted when she had her legs wrapped around his head that he's living every man's fantasy or something like that. So I think there's possibility to that. That's just a guess. My only last real gripe with SummerSlam was why was Theory in a match with Bobby Lashley? Why? It can only be that, like, are we just done because Vince McMahon's gone? Are we done with Theory? Is this kind of the end?
I have no idea, honestly.
I don't feel like he needed to be in that match. He didn't need to lose that match. He'd have been better set being in a match with someone like Seth Rollins or Riddle and having a hell of a match and possibly even winning and going over and coming out of that thing looking strong. I don't see Bobby Lashley. You could put him against anybody on the roster, and it's going to be a hell of a match. It's going to look good. Bobby Lashley's going to look good, and he walks out United States champion still. And there's no reason to dump on your guy who's had all the momentum in the world coming out of WrestleMania. Didn't make sense to me.
If they are done with him, that would have been a good point to just be like, okay.
I mean, unless we see Theory on SmackDown, I have to assume that that's kind of there's one or two things happening. They've either decided that without Vince McMahon, he's not a big deal. We're not going to use him as much anymore. Or they're trying to get him out of our face and he's going to pop up when we least expect it and cash in.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you is that, like, with him being like Vince's boy, is it that because we're changing everything, we have to get rid of Theory because of that?
No, I don't think there's a stigma around him. I don't think that like he's got connection to like the negative things coming off of Vince McMahon. I just don't know if like Triple H saw the same value. Triple H may see more value in Ciampa than he does in Theory. I'm going to go with the latter here. I think this is you guys were all expecting this to happen. It didn't happen. We're going to hit you with this at a different moment. I could see it clash at the castle, right? Drew McIntyre destroys Roman Reigns. Not destroys. That's an overstatement. He beats Roman Reigns. Mm-hmm. He wins the title. Everybody's excited. Drew's back in the title picture. Boom. Here's Austin Theory. Cashes in, takes the belt, and now Roman gets to ride off in the sunset for a little bit, and we go into a Theory Drew McIntyre program that makes sense for the next 3 months. I could see that. But the reality is, I know I tend to speak in extremes anyway. I get super excited after events, and I am a little nitpicky when it comes to things. I think as far as like premium live events, that was the best one I've ever seen from start to finish. Maybe excluding some WrestleManias, which I think are unfair because those are spectacles. But as far as just standard,
those are on their own level.
Yeah, as far as standard premium live events, I think I left that one extremely satisfied.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to give it a 10 because I don't like to give out 10s, but that's a 9.9.
9.9.
That's a 9.9 on my premium live event scale.
I like it.
All right, what else do you got?
Okay, so after SummerSlam went off the air, there were reports of Brock Lesnar saying goodbye to fans at the stadium as he left the shattered ring. Many fans and news outlets are reporting the possibility of this being the last time we see Brock Lesnar in the WWE ring, even though he still has time left on his contract. Was this the last time that we will see Brock Lesnar in the WWE?
There's a funny thing that happens now as we've grown this show. The more followers and the more attention that this podcast gets, after every Monday night, after every Friday night, after the Saturday premium live events, I get flooded into my inbox with messages and questions about things that just happened or people telling me their thoughts and opinions, which is fucking awesome. I love it. It makes this fun. This show was always meant to be to spark up discussion. That's why I hate when people come in and try to be upset about what I say. No, just disagree. It's okay. Don't annoy me. I hate fucking annoying people. Just do it in a way that like be conversational. And I woke up after SummerSlam, this wasn't even a thought in my fucking mind. And I went to sleep and I woke up and then there was a ton of messages in my inbox asking me if I thought that was possibly the last time we were ever going to see Brock Lesnar in a WWE ring, or even just for the foreseeable future. And I don't know if it's just that I've become like Stockholm syndrome to WWE, that I kind of have this feeling of like Brock shows up, Brock caused destruction, Brock leave, then Brock come back. Like that's the pattern that I'm just used to. And I don't overthink that when Brock says goodbye, it's Brock's goodbye is for a short time, not for a long time. I still live under the belief that Brock goes to WWE when Brock wants to go to WWE, or when WWE really feels like they need Brock. But Brock's not just there for the everyday paycheck. Yeah. Brock likes the big moments, and he's not going to come and play second fiddle to anybody. And so I didn't go to bed checking my inbox thinking this, and I woke up. And so then I jumped on Google, and I looked, and I jumped on a couple reputable wrestling sites, and I see that there are reputable news organizations that are talking about, hey, man, this could have been the last time that we see Brock Lesnar. And that caught me off guard. Because one thing we have to keep in mind when we talk about SummerSlam is that I don't think the way SummerSlam came together was the way they originally wanted SummerSlam to come together. I don't think that Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns was ever originally the plans they were headed towards. I think that they had the idea of something with Randy Orton, or something with Riddle, or something in a combination with the Bloodline and Randy Orton Riddle. I always think that's where SummerSlam was headed. I think that Brock Lesnar came in and substituted and had an amazing main event, but I think that fell into our lap. I don't think that was ever WWE's plan. And when WWE talked about, there were rumors that they were upset with the card, I just think it didn't come together the way they thought it would.
True.
And all of a sudden, we got Brock Lesnar and it was amazing. Now, I know there's this belief from a lot of people that Brock Lesnar is a Vince McMahon guy, and when Vince McMahon said he's done, or didn't say he's done, he basically got pushed out. When Vince McMahon got pushed out, he was done. Brock was done. I'm not doing this anymore. But I don't think so. I think Vince McMahon always gave Brock the sweet deal, but I also think that Triple H knows Brock is an important piece of the puzzle when you're putting together big shows. And big shows, people show up for Brock Lesnar. And I also think that as Brock has aged, he's kind of come to grow to appreciate the WWE and the pro wrestling audience more. I think Brock has a little bit, a real respect for the fans that show him genuine love.
Yes, I agree.
He seems to be humbled and talks to the crowd and does say goodbye and things like that. And I don't think it's the inevitable goodbye forever.
No.
I think it's the goodbye for a little bit. Thank you guys for coming out here. I put my fucking life on the line in these things. And you guys cheer for me. When all that smoke settles after SummerSlam and we look at the roster, right? And we know Triple H has big plans. He has different plans than Vince McMahon probably had. When we look at the roster and we go, the immediate future, there's not a lot of reason for Brock Lesnar to be around right now. We're transitioning.
Yes.
And so it doesn't make sense for this chapter of Brock Lesnar's over, and there may be another chapter of Brock Lesnar. He may go away for a few months until we're getting that itch for Brock Lesnar to come back. I do believe, I was scrolling through Twitter, and I think I saw a tweet from WWE for the next January 1st, 2023 Premium Live event. They're doing another day one event.
Okay.
And I believe Brock Lesnar was plastered on that fucking poster. And I don't think for a minute, if they think Brock Lesnar's done, that they're putting them on any promotional material moving forward.
I agree.
Because I don't think they want to. They don't want to give off that signal. I do think that we probably see Brock Lesnar around Crown Jewel for some kind of match. Something. That's the big Saudi Arabia one. And
why wouldn't he?
He sells tickets. The match at SummerSlam, Lauren, it didn't feel like someone's last match.
No.
It didn't, like, if you're giving someone a last hurrah, it didn't feel like you make a more to do about it. He deserves to go out on his own terms, whether that's with a title or title run or putting someone over that needs to be put over. Brock needs to do what Brock needs to do. But I think Brock will be done with the business when Brock's ready to be done with the business. I think coming off a huge match like that the emotions run high. He's going to take a break. He'll come back. He'll show up and he'll have another run in him. I think there's another title run in him. I also think, and AEW doesn't have this. This is one thing AEW doesn't have that WWE has. Brock Lesnar is the ultimate break glass in case of emergency.
Oh, 100%.
There's no other guy
Yes.
in
It took me a minute
professional
to think. I
wrestling,
was like,
but there's no other man in professional wrestling or woman who he doesn't even need a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
That shit happened. Roman Reigns comes out. I'm gonna smash there, but Brock shows up. Hey man, we're ready to go. Brock
Yeah.
just has to show up to whoop ass, and everybody's ready.
I agree.
So I think Triple H knows that he can keep that card in his back pocket, and I don't think he's gonna play that card as often as Vince McMahon did. It felt like every time there was a panic, Vince McMahon ran to
Call Brock.
Yeah, called Brock.
Come on.
I think, Triple H has plans for Montez Ford. He's got plans for Tommaso Ciampa. He's got plans for the Braun Breakers. And we're in the midst, like I said, of the next big transition. We're going to see over the next year a lot of young talent step up and get a chance to grab what used to be Vince McMahon's brass ring, but they're going to grab Triple H's brass ring. I have no doubt, there's no bigger draw in pro wrestling than Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
You put his name,
Brock Lesnar.
you put his
bro.
name on the marquee and tickets start to sell. See, John Cena, probably the next in line, if not equal. But it's not CM Punk. It's not Roman Reigns. It's not Cody Rhodes. Maybe The Rock, when The Rock does do his little one-off comebacks. But Brock Lesnar's up there. He's a ticket mover. So long answer to a short question.
You asked your question, then I got one for you.
Well, I'm kind of wrapping it up.
Okay.
My odds are, if I was a betting man, I go odds are under 5% that Brock Lesnar is considering retirement. And I say more importantly, I think there's a 75% chance that we see Brock wrestle within the next calendar year.
Okay. So speaking of glass breaker, right? Who is a bigger glass breaker? You call it
You're talking
this
about
emergency.
yeah.
Yes. Would it be Stone Cold or Brock Lesnar?
But it's not the same thing. Stone Cold was a one-off. Stone Cold was a grandpa who got in the ring and we were all really no. That's not meant to be offensive at all.
But to some
that's
people,
grandpa. It's a little better than Ric Flair's last match.
okay.
It was all nostalgia. Stone Cold was not the Stone Cold that we know. Brock Lesnar right now may be the best version of Brock Lesnar we've ever seen. Brock is the prime of his. When you break glass and you bring Brock Lesnar in, you're bringing in a super athlete. When you bring nostalgia backs, even The Rock, The Rock's not the Rock that we used to know. We remember fondly and we get excited, but no, like break glass for emergency, Stone Cold. Yeah, the crowd gets excited, but Stone Cold couldn't hold our attention for 3 months at a time. Brock Lesnar, every time that music hits, we lose our shit.
Oh yeah.
We go nuts.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
I love it.
No comparison.
Okay.
Well, we're running long, aren't we?
All right, you ready? Oh, no, hold on. Okay. So there were rumors pre-Monday Night Raw this week that Sasha Banks and Naomi could be making an imminent return to the WWE. Speaking to Triple H, do you think that the reports are true? And do you think that SummerSlam played a part in their decision to return?
It's so when you read the news sites, and some of them are dirt sheets, some of them are news sites, but when you read them, it's like, who the fuck knows anymore what to believe and what not to believe? And the more news sites you find, the more you realize that nobody has any fucking idea what's going on, me included, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going on. I get on here and I talk about the things I read and I see, and 90% of the shit is clickbait. And I understand, hey man, you got to get people to fucking look at your content, but I don't know. You find one website that says Sasha Banks and Naomi, it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
Then you find another website that says Sasha Banks wants nothing to do with WWE. So as casual fans, all we can do is try to sift through the bullshit and figure out a logical conclusion to the madness. And I don't know if you can really answer the first question of, do I think they're coming back, without kind of touching on the second part of that is, does SummerSlam does it play a part in them maybe returning? I don't know if it's perception, but at this exact moment in time, Triple H has stuck a crowbar in the gap between AEW and WWE, and he's pried it apart. And right now, perceptively, in most, at least casual wrestling fans' eyes, there's a separation. The WWE took a leap forward.
Yes.
And maybe it's just perception, right? But it's been a long time since the morale of like the casual WWE audience has been screaming this loud, since they've been this excited, since we've kind of picked up the pom-poms and started cheering for our product. And it's a high level of excitement. It's a high level of excitement that I can only compare to those real small pockets of hardcore, like obsessed AEW fans. Some of the WWE ones are starting to come back out of the woodworks. And I think also there's a perception, or there was a perception. There used to be a perception. And maybe this was Tony Khan. Tony Khan's pretty good at this. There was a perception that the gap was smaller than it probably really was in reality. And I think AEW and Tony Khan have done a good job of convincing wrestlers that, yeah, WWE might be a little bigger, it might be a little more popular, it might be a little more commercial, but we're the fun wrestling.
Well, also, was it because, from what I've seen, is that AEW fans like to say, what's the real wrestling? They do real wrestling. Yeah. But these past few events have shown us that WWE is going to do more wrestling.
Too. Yes. And I also think that's one, but I think Tony Khan has sold a lot of these guys on, come over here, I listen. I let you do what you want, right? I give you what you want. He gave the perception that AEW was the fun place to wrestle. Now, all of a sudden, the perception has changed. And Triple H looks like he's righting some of these wrongs from the Vince McMahon era of professional wrestling. And you're starting to hear rumors and rumblings and little sparks of people that might have regretted decisions of jumping off that WWE ship a little too quick. Like I've read reports that one of those guys is Keith Lee. Keith Lee was a Triple H guy. Yeah. And he probably looks back and thinks, fuck. It could be me. I could be over there doing the things I want to do. But to bring this back, because this is a Sasha Banks and Naomi question, to bring it back to them, what it really boils down to, if you're looking at this, is does Sasha Banks, and I'm going to speak more on Sasha Banks, because I think, it would be hard for me to see Naomi go to AEW with her husband being in WWE. I think if there's any offer for her to come back, she comes back. So I speak more. Yeah. And I think where one goes, the other goes. I don't think they separate. But I do think, bringing it back to Sasha Banks then, the question boils down to, does Sasha Banks, is she more interested in making a big name in professional wrestling, or is she more in love with the sport of wrestling? And when I say that is, WWE offers a stage unlike any other. Look at Logan Paul. You heard him talking to Pat McAfee today. Yeah. He didn't even realize like the opportunities that arise and just the level of excitement and what it is. You don't get roles in Star Wars from AEW. You just don't. They're not creating those kind of stars. Where they hang their hat, like you said, is we're a wrestling company. They're not producing television stars. WWE does. WWE creates wrestling stars. And I don't like to hear when people go, well, no, that wasn't Sasha Banks in The Mandalorian. That was Mercedes Varnado.
Sasha Banks, bro.
No. She didn't get that job because of Mercedes Varnado. Because of her
great acting skills.
She got the job. Well, I mean, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to comment on her acting skills, but she got the job because she's Sasha Banks. She doesn't walk into that fucking... She doesn't even get to walk into the audition if she's not Sasha Banks. Mm-hmm. So WWE affords you those opportunities. So Sasha Banks and Naomi... If they look at the media attention coming out of SummerSlam, all this positive energy that's radiating off of the WWE right now, and they look at the state of women's wrestling, right? And you look and you go on the left, we have WWE and we have Triple H and we have Stephanie McMahon. And these people are notorious for making women's wrestling a priority. And there's some of the best women's wrestlers in the world are in this company. People like Liv Morgan are thriving. People like Bianca Belair are thriving. People are thriving. And then you look to the right and you go, oh, there's AEW. And, well, their women's division is kind of hit and miss. It's I don't know. I could go over there. Maybe I'll be a star. Maybe I won't. To me, it's a simple choice. If you're really trying to get back, it's a simple choice. If Triple H has reached out, if he has reached out to Sasha Banks or Naomi with any kind of peace offering, which I assume he has, half-hearted, wholehearted, quarter-hearted, whatever the fuck it was, they should jump on that immediately and claim victory. Claim they defeated Vince McMahon, because you did. You walked away from the biggest wrestling company in the world and you were asked to come back And you did it by taking your ball and going home, which I disagreed with, but fuck it. You won. Come back, hold your head up high and tell them we won. WWE is the most recognized professional wrestling company in the world. There's no better situation to be in if you're trying. I get the vibes that Sasha Banks wants to transcend like The Rock, wants to transcend, but the blueprint's there. WWE's done this. The biggest movie star in the world came from WWE. John Cena's not far behind.
No.
He's starting to blow up. Roman Reigns will probably be somewhere at that level in the next couple years. And it seems like Sasha Banks could follow right behind. Your real other option, if you're Sasha Banks, is to roll the dice. You're rolling the fucking dice and you go, I'm going to go to AEW. I'm going to get thrown into a women's division that's all over the place. Yeah. Possibly I end up on the main event. But what does that even mean? What does an AEW main event star do? They wrestle. So I get to wrestle more. If she loves wrestling, that's great. But if your name wasn't Cody Rhodes, you weren't really getting anything outside of AEW. Cody got some TBS stuff, but I just don't think AEW offers that type of exposure. And I know I'm not trying to make the comparison between Sasha Banks and Ruby Soho, but I'm going to make the comparison. Dig down deep. Someone call Ruby Soho right now. Dig down deep and make her be truthful when she answers this. And tell her to look at Liv Morgan, someone who waited out and didn't get anxious and jump ship. And someone ask her if she's having more fun now than Liv Morgan.
Yeah.
Because Liv Morgan is now the SmackDown Women's Champion. And Ruby Soho has wrestled her last 6 matches on AEW Dark and Rampage.
That's crazy.
Okay? This was the girl y'all said was going to come over and set the world on fire. And she's gone. They're not using her.
Yeah.
So it's hit and miss. Yeah, Sasha Banks. I have no doubts. She walks into AEW. She's probably extremely impactful. Mm-hmm. But AEW, they need Sasha Banks.
Yeah, not the other way around.
More than Sasha Banks needs AEW. Whereas there's more of a mutual beneficial relationship between Sasha Banks and WWE. They both can offer each other huge possibilities. The WWE can always use another star, and Sasha Banks can just make her star brighter.
Yep.
So I do believe in my heart of hearts that if Sasha Banks and Naomi, if they return to professional wrestling, they've had time to cool off. I think they get to do a couple of these little appearances they want to do, but they're going to pop back up in WWE. There's no other place that they need to be wrestling, especially for someone like Sasha Banks who wants to transcend. And with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon in charge, there's no way they end up in any other ring.
So, well, speaking of Triple H, he went on the Impulsive podcast this week and spoke about the importance of mic skills over Raw wrestling talent, saying, quote, it's not the moves. It's like watching a movie. How many movies have you seen with crazy budgets and special effects and CGI that visually you go, oh, holy shit, that's amazing. And no one cares. The movie bombs. There's no story because no one really cares. It's not about the moves. It's about what you do between them, the characters and the story. I can make a way longer list of terrible athletes that were incredibly over in this business than I can of crazy athletes that were the be all end all. Damn. Has Triple H been listening to you?
No, I feel like that. I just feel like I have my pulse. That's what I wanted to say, right? I saw you have a follow-up question there. That's what do you think of Logan Paul's overall performance at SummerSlam? It's funny to me, right? It's funny that I continuously am yelling this stuff. I'm continuously saying I'm speaking from a casual wrestling fan's point of view. I am not the IWC. I talk on a microphone, but I talk from a casual fan's perspective. And every time I say something, all these other content creators, they want to jump on what I say. They want to jump all over it. They want to try and boost their content. They want to roll their eyes. They want to tell me how fucking wrong I am. But now the big man's saying the same shit I'm saying. I understand this. I understand this from a fan's perspective. I'm not looking at this with my feelings. I like Cesaro. I don't have any problem with Dominic Mysterio, but you also have to be truthful when you're being objective. And these people who roll their eyes when I say Dominic Mysterio is not that guy, these people who duet me and get pissed off about this shit, hey man, that's your feelings. That's your feelings getting involved. And I fucking came out and said 3 or 4 weeks ago, Before anybody was talking about it, I said Logan Paul's better than Dominic Mysterio.
100%.
Said it. I came out and said it. I said Dominic doesn't have that personality. He's not. Certain guys have that it. Dominic doesn't have it.
I mean, look at them physically.
Dominic's gaining weight. You said it.
I said it.
We all commented. He's getting a little chunky.
He's wearing lots of hoodies and loose fitting stuff and like unitards.
Instead of this is the time where he should be sculpting his body if he wants to be a pro wrestler, and it looks like he's gaining weight and whatever. I don't care. It's not body shaming, but don't tell me he's that guy. He's not gonna be that guy.
Well, Logan Paul said in the interview with, what was it, Pat McAfee?
That his body is his fucking armor.
Exactly.
But that's the mentality of a warrior versus the mentality of a guy who's just happy to be there. And every time I say something like this that's truthful, it hurts a couple people's feelings because they get affectionate towards these wrestlers.
Yeah.
People are treating Dominic Mysterio like a puppy. They're
like a baby boy.
Like a little boy. Yeah. And they at their favorite content creators and they try to get them to come after me. And I don't really care because what I said aligns exactly. And I said this before he said it. And I'm not taking credit. Triple H is a far fucking smarter person than I am. But it shows you where I'm aligned, where my thought process is aligned. Yeah. And I'm saying this as a casual wrestling audience member. Mm-hmm. I understand this. I understand I do a podcast. And that immediately gets all these people to go, you are the IWC. We got to define what the IWC is. The IWC is not anybody who's in the internet wrestling community. It is a subculture of people who think they know more than everybody else. That's not me. I don't think I know more. My characteristics don't line up with these other IWC guys. I tell you guys over and over and over again, I'm not speaking to my audience when I say this shit. I'm speaking to the majority of wrestling fans who are not sitting at the computer doing research on dirt sheets. I'm talking to the ones, when I talk about casual wrestling, people who only watch Raw and SmackDown or just AEW. They're not watching every wrestling product. Oh, we should like all wrestling products. Some of us don't have that kind of time.
Dissecting every single move that they do.
Some of us have to compare the two and then go, I have a limited number of hours in a week that I can watch television, and I choose WWE because that's the one that appeals to me because of exactly what I said. Casual people don't care how many super kicks you can do and how many flippy flips you can do. Casual fans don't care. What they care about is if you can talk and can you make me pay attention? If not, I'm changing the channel. And it just so happens, right, that Logan Paul happens to be one of those freak athletes who can do both. He's the perfect combination. Logan Paul knows how to make people feel a certain way. He's been a Vine influencer. He's been a YouTube star. He's got a podcast. He knows how to manipulate people's feelings. He knows how to naturally grab a microphone and just talk. He understands wrestling. He said it today on Pat McAfee, how he was not, like, everything he's done in his life was preparing him for this moment.
Yeah.
So that just happens. Like, that's not normal. That's unnormal. It's regular.
Yeah.
And I know that after SummerSlam now all these fucking content creators, they're going to jump and scream about how much they love Logan Paul and how they were I didn't hear any of that. No. I've been saying that. I said it pre-WrestleMania. I was excited for that was one of the matches I was most excited for. I have been on the Logan Paul train since the beginning, and everybody's gonna jump on it, and I'm fine. It's fine. I'll toot my horn a little bit where I need to toot it.
Toot.
Just saying, I'm ahead of this shit. The only real question I have left when it comes to Logan Paul.
Okay.
Because I asked some questions last week, but the only question I have left, how bad does Logan Paul really want to be in the WWE? Because it's not a matter. There is no ceiling anymore. Mm-hmm. There's no questions on if he can do this. He's proven he's good at this. So it's not if Logan Paul could hold the championship. It's how bad does he really want to, how much time does he want to invest into this to hit these accolades, these milestones, these titles? He could be WWE champion. I
believe that.
I half-heartedly said that last week, said, hey, could you see him being 24/7 champion or WWE? Imagine him being WWE. I'm not joking anymore. If this guy dedicates himself, you strap a rocket on his fucking back and you put him in the ring with the big boys and he needs a year. He needs a year to perfect this thing. And if he really takes it serious, like, he's going to box. All right. So I don't know how serious he is. If he's going to box a match in December, it feels like this may just be a hobby. I don't know, man. It's all that athleticism, his ability to talk on the microphones. All that shit, it matters. It all matters. And I know I rub people the wrong way when I say this shit. But the truth is, Triple H just said it, and you guys got to fucking live with it. Mm-hmm. And I'll go one deeper. You know what made everybody hate me originally when I did this podcast? When I talked about size. Size matters. Yes. Size matters. Yeah. Now, you can transcend size, but size matters. Size matters. Personality matters. If I had to rank them, personality, size, then wrestling ability. That's what build. You want to build the perfect wrestler. You find a guy that's 6'4" to 6'6", who's got a booming fucking personality, and he's an athlete who can learn to wrestle. He's a superstar. You can't work the other way to me. You can't find a guy who's a really great wrestler, Claudio, who has no personality, Claudio, and maybe a little bit undersized. Not necessarily Claudio, but still, his size doesn't make up for the lack of the other things. That's just the truth. Last thing, before we move on to the last question.
Okay.
And this is probably going to really sting for the IWC, and I'm ready. I'm fucking fired up this week. I don't know how long. We've been going a long fucking time.
Hour and 5 minutes.
Cool. And that's good. But I'm fired up. The last thing, this is going to sting the IWC. I'm ready to go. I'm fucking gloves are back on. I said this about Logan Paul. I said he was the real deal. But here, I'm going to make a statement now. Logan Paul is better than 90% of the other wrestlers in AEW and WWE. There are an elite few. That are better. Not going to put him over the Moxleys, the Bryan Danielsons, some of those guys. Not going to put him up in that level. But 90% of the AEW roster and 90% of that WWE roster, he's better.
I don't know if I can. I can't argue that.
You want to go one farther?
What?
He's better than 99% of the wrestlers that have grinded their way through the independents to get to the professional wrestling. He's already better because he understands. He understands the psychology. He's not better. He's not a better wrestler. He's a better pro wrestler.
Yeah.
He understands the psychology of pro wrestling. So
he's got it all. One package. One beautiful package.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not even meant, because I know like that's going to piss off independent wrestlers. That's not meant to be a shot at those guys. It's meant to be a compliment at how much Logan Paul fits the mold of professional wrestling. He gets it.
He's got it all.
When you're coming up, and who am I to fucking tell anybody, but if I was somebody coming up to become a professional wrestler, my biggest thing I would focus on is my personality and my character.
Yeah. I mean,
it's creating a larger than life character.
That's what makes people fall in love with you.
Exactly. There's a million guys, like Triple H said, that can flippy flip. Mm-hmm. There's not a million guys. It's not a million guys that can grab a microphone and make you pay attention.
Yeah.
Last question.
Okay. So apparently the WWE held tryouts in Nashville for future WWE stars, with most being NIL recruits. Okay. Reports are that the tryouts were a disaster and that people left with concussions. And we have sources being quoted as saying it was the blind leading the blind. Now, should we walk back on the policy should the WWE walk back on the policy of recruiting more stars like from the indies?
So the question is, should the WWE walk back the policy of not recruiting more indie stars to NXT?
Yes.
Okay.
You said it.
Start off, before we even get to the question, I saw Big E was at the tryouts. That's awesome. I'm glad that he's still involved and not. I think you could quickly fall into a state of depression when something like that happens and the thing you love is just ripped out. Like, look, in January, he was in the WWE title match.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like 7-8 months later, he can't wrestle. So shout out to fucking Big E. Hopefully he's healing up. Hopefully he's able to get back into a ring, or at least just be able to be around the thing he loves in some form or fashion. Even if he never wrestles again, I hope he finds something that makes him as happy. Something. Now, as far as this NIL thing, NIL, I don't know if you know, these are like Division 1 and 2 athletes. Basically, WWE kind of implemented a policy that instead of going to like the indie shows that we've gone to, the RCWs and things like that, and plucking those wrestlers out, WWE, and I think more importantly, Vince McMahon kind of came up with a plan of, we're just going to go find athletes. We're going to go find Bianca Belair. We're going to go find Roman Reigns. I don't know that those people exist everywhere.
Yeah.
if you're asking me, and I don't know shit about what makes a good wrestler, but if you're asking me, the best policy for recruiting would be to look in every pool that's available to look into.
I agree.
Is to have discretion when you look and not go, we're only going to use athletes, and not go, we're only going to use fucking indie wrestlers, but you want to dip into both of those pools to figure out who's the next big thing.
So right now, if I'm an indie wrestler, I cannot try out for WWE.
So I don't know that you can. So it's invitation, I imagine, and it
I'd have
sounds
to be big
to
enough,
me,
and they'd have to invite me.
it sounds to me like the invitations are going out more to Division I athletes and Division II athletes than they are to independent wrestlers. Now, I came up through Division I sports.
Yeah.
I was around a lot of athletes, and there's a lot. That's an overstatement. There are guys who are highly intelligent, highly athletic, who probably could pick up on pro wrestling. They had the big personalities. They could do all of that. But there's also a lot of dumb assholes in sports. There's a bunch of douchebags who think they can do things they can't do. So you can't just pull from those guys. You can't just look for the best looking guy and put him in there. You need the balance. For every Roman Reigns, you need a CM Punk. You need a guy who grinded his way up to the top. I have nothing against the guys like CM Punk and the indie guys. Those guys are needed, and they fit certain positions, right? It's the same on the flip side, right? Not every indie promotion guy can be the next big star. We just talked about it. A lot of indie guys lack certain promo skills, and not everyone. There are good ones. They do exist, but a lot of them do. A lot of them focus so heavily on the wrestling. So I think when you're WWE, you can't implement a one-size-fits-all policy. The truth is, certain people are just better at certain things than other people. There's certain people who are really good at adapting. Pat McAfee, right? There's probably no way to predict if you put Pat McAfee in a lineup that he was going to be a guy who could pro wrestle, but he just understands the entire mentality of the thing. Even Logan Paul kind of said it, right? No offense, I didn't think you were as good as you should be because you were a punter. Logan Paul looks like an athlete, but Pat McAfee looks like kind of a stocky punter.
Yeah.
So there's no one size fits all. And so I hope they just continue to find the best talent they can find. I need more Roman Reigns. I need more CM Punk. You need Cesaros. You need all of those people. If every wrestler fit one mold,
It'd be boring. Yeah.
You have to have these guys that certain people identify with and get behind. And there's always even going to be a place for these Pat McAfees and these Logan Pauls and maybe Jake Paul one day. But I also saw, and I showed you, right? Fuck, I don't know if he was serious or not, but Dwight Howard showed up.
Oh, yes.
Dwight Howard showed up and cut one of the most phenomenal, hilarious promos that I've ever seen. So you look at someone like Dwight Howard, and you got to put that in perspective, because you look at a guy like Omos, who's about the same size as, and you go, God, if he just had fucking Dwight's personality.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, Omos, big guy, moves decent for a big guy, but he can't work a microphone the way Dwight Howard can.
No.
I hope that Dwight Howard has some real intention
Me too.
of getting inside,
Like,
even if it's
so
on
much.
like a Shaquille O'Neal type level of just a few celebrity matches. But that guy, he's hilarious. He's just a fucking happy person. And seeing him do that looked like he was living the time of his life. Also, there's a video going around of him yelling, I think, at Paul Heyman from the stands.
Oh, God.
He was in the front row in that last match, and he's yelling at Paul Heyman to do something like, help Roman, help Roman. So, I mean, like, these people that
I'd
are
love to
passionate,
see him in wrestling.
but there's a place for those guys as well. There are different segments of wrestling that exist. So I don't know. I don't know if this was a fucking shit show. I don't know if all these people run around hitting each other in the head and falling down. And I could see that, because when you go get a bunch of people who've never wrestled, it's like people who say rapping is easy.
Also, my question is, if they've never wrestled before, how can you really tell what their potential is in like the 5 seconds that they do it? Some people take longer than others to pick up on stuff.
Right? And like,
Hey, go do a back handspring,
I don't even
bro.
know what they're telling them to do. Are they running like, are you just running back and forth on the ropes and these guys are just fucking hitting their head on things?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're falling back and you're taking bumps. I've watched enough wrestling training to know that, like, it's fucking physical. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get hurt. And it sounds to me There's a bunch of people that
I'd
didn't
like to
know
see
what
some videos.
You gotta wonder if they were just laughing, like,
I'm sure.
Jesus, number 365, just fucking.
What if they just fucked with some people and were like,
oh, you know that goes on.
Hey,
that goes on in
do it
everything,
again, bro.
That's just something that happens in all tryouts.
Yeah.
People get fucked with. I hope that they're able to find. I hope they can find the athletes that need wrestling training, that have good personalities and are super athletic and have that look. I hope they can find the indie guys who need that promo work, who need that personality. And I think that's what the WWE Performance Center was designed for, was to get these guys in and to give promo classes. And I think Dusty Rhodes was doing that before he passed. He was giving them the ability to build character.
That's really cool.
And if Big E could get in there and help some people, because Big E knows how to build a character.
Yeah.
So if I think people are in the right hands. It just sounds a little funny when you hear like the blind leading the blind.
Yes.
But I mean, I just think the problem is there's certain people who have it and there's certain people who don't have it, and you can't pick from one pool. Some of those guys take the path of, at 18 years old, they knew they wanted to be a pro wrestler, and they started wrestling in gymnasiums and churches and different places like that. And certain people are guys like Roman Reigns, who thought he was going to end up in the NFL, wasn't able, like, he didn't have that level of skill, but that can translate into pro wrestling.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen him grow into a
100%.
superstar. So
100%.
Yeah.
You got anything else tonight?
no, just I'm still mad about Brock losing, and it hurts me in my heart, and losing the belt.
The bloodline. I'm like, look, I'm the podcasting world's bloodline. It's
But I
what
also
I am.
really love the bloodline, so I'm that fan that everybody hates.
You can't do that.
I
You
love
can't
Brock
do that.
Lesnar,
Ever since-
and I love Roman Reigns. What I wore a Roman Reigns T-shirt with my Brock Lesnar shirt over, and you just looked at me and you're like, "No,
It's not okay. It's not okay. Ever since high school, I was in high school. Eminem and 50 Cent taught me a lesson. You stand on one side of the street. You're either Eminem and 50 Cent or your jaw rule.
Hop hop."
And you can't like both. You can't like. You can respect.
This one did hurt me though.
You can respect both.
I really wanted Brock Lesnar to win.
You can respect both, but you can't be a fan of Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. You have to choose which side of this, like which side of the ropes you're standing on.
I choose that I love them both.
This has been another episode of the CWC Wrestling Podcast. Make sure to tune in every week on either YouTube or Spotify, and please leave us a comment on this episode. It definitely helps us get into the YouTube algorithms. Also, make sure to follow us on TikTok if you do not already. Just search for the Notorious Nerdy D. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D. That is Level Up Lauren, and it's time to ring the final bell.
Before we go, though, don't forget to send your questions for next week's episode to questions@IamNerdyD.com.
All right.
Now I can ring the final bell.
Now ring the bell.
Ding, 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 ding.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, casual wrestling community show. You already know. Talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't be sure that you gon' find. Tune